r/ask Reddit. Which aspect of a foreign culture do you wish they had in your country? I could really go for more saunas and hot springs. It would be great to have more saunas and sauna culture like Finland. Japanese style vending machines. I'm in the UK and they would just be vandalized. Speaking of, the one standard Japanese thing I'd like to see in the US would be the way you interact with servers at restaurants. Rather than the onus being on the server to check up on you every few minutes, you can just call out to the server when you need them and they won't bother you outside of that. When you try to do the same thing in the US it just feels rude. Like you're specifically pointing out to your server that they're neglecting you or something. At the Brazilian steakhouse near me you get a stone puck with one side green to indicate you want more meat and the other red to be left alone. Having a siesta midday and then everyone staying up way later and hanging out. Work-life balance. Working to death is not the answer in an Asian society that always wanna win or never lose face. But my old company, yearly hour-long mandatory culture seminar. Work-life balance is very important to us. Never be afraid to adjust things for a better balance. Call HR if you don't think you're being allowed to have a healthy balance. Talking to boss about the fact that I'm working, without overtime, 11-hour days and every other Saturday with no end in sight. And given that they moved which facility I worked at to one that's over 2 hours away in one direction, I'm barely having enough time to sleep, much less exist outside of work or even eat. Well, the work has to get done. I suppose if you stay even longer, then you'll get the work done faster and have more time. Ignoring that if I get more work done faster, they'll just assign me more work on the same schedule. Then talking to HR about it, you are a salaried employee. Why are you whining about an extra hour here or there? Stop trying to nickel and dime the company. Duck Raytheon. Shout out to my Swedish friends. Fika is a social institution in Sweden where people take a break from work for coffee and socializing. It's about slowing down, catching up with friends, and really not being so focused on work. It's the mindset that comes with it about self-care and not overworking yourself that I find so refreshing. In North America, coffee breaks at work typically still revolve around work talk that you don't get a chance for a mental break. I'm from the Netherlands. Did a semester of uni in Sweden. Here if you'd be running behind on a group project you'd Skype with your teammates in the evening to get it done. When I suggested that in Sweden they looked at me like I had 3 heads. Loved it. Seriously? LOL. Here in the US all of my group projects were done exclusively at night because that was the only time we could all meet. Take your ducking shoes off in my house. I attended an American uni that had a local campus in my country and the professors from the American campus would travel to our local campus to teach us. In one class, the professor asked us about an aspect about American culture we couldn't understand. Not taking shoes off in the house was unanimously voted as number 1. I constantly read American interpretations that suggest they think taking shoes off before entering another's house is something typical of Japanese culture. I'm pretty sure it happens almost everywhere because bringing street dirt into the house is just a very bad idea. Why would you not take your shoes off? Almost everyone I knew growing up in the US would take their shoes off in their house. My house too. I find this such an odd stereotype. More emphasis of quality over quantity in food. A giant cup of watered down coffee is not as satisfying as a modest sized but decent coffee. A giant chocolate bar made with crappy ingredients that just barely legally qualifies as chocolate is not as satisfying as a proper piece of real chocolate. When I was in France I was taken aback watching people argue about things and not getting upset with each other. As an Australian that was one of the most refreshing things I'd ever seen. In my part of the world people attach themselves personally to every little inconsequential opinion or viewpoint. If you challenge that viewpoint, people respond as if you're attacking them personally and it turns to shit like clockwork. It's such a deep-seated attitude. We ended up with the phrase no politics at the dinner table. Someone's inevitably gonna get upset and then everyone's having a shit night. French don't give a duck. They'll debate politics, philosophy, religion, economics, all that shit until they are blue in the face. The mood never drops. You don't feel the energy in the room become more and more hostile. So that was nice. Whenever I have a discussion in Australia with someone, people tell me to stop arguing, even if both of us are being rational and aren't getting emotional. Traditional Mongolian warmongering. and throat singing. The buttons at tables and restaurants in Korea that request a server. The Yogi-Yo button. Man, I miss it every time I go to the US. As a Korean-born dude, the way you named the button was kind of funny. It seems a lot more normal in the States to go to therapy, which I wish was a thing here in the UK. Obviously there is therapy here, but from my perspective here it seems like society only thinks you should go to therapy if you have serious diagnosed issues, when in reality it can help everyone from time to time. Also bidets. Never tried one, but it makes much more sense hygiene wise. Like, if you had poop on your hand you wouldn't be content with just wiping it off. You'd, hopefully, properly wash your hands with soap and water. I think it depends a bit on generation. But yeah, my friends and I openly talk about therapy and even the details of our sessions. It's nice to be open about it and sometimes run through our post-therapy thoughts. We're in our 20s for reference. I know people who are 40-50 plus who are much less open about it. Not taking up space needlessly, being considerate to others in common spaces. In North America, people will stand in doorways, stop to have a chat in the middle of a busy hallway, basically take up space that is for common use and not think it is rude whatsoever. I cannot tell you how many times I've come across someone blocking a doorway and you give them like 5 seconds to move, and then when you say excuse me to get by, they look at you like you're rude. You're standing in a doorway people need to come and go out of. Be considerate. Honestly though, this especially was rampant in school. It's like they purposely chose the busiest and narrowest hallway that had the most lockers to huddle up and have a discussion. I've heard that other countries are much more generous with vacation time for professional workers than the US is. Probably that. This has been the biggest culture shock I've had moving to Poland. I never had a job in the US that gave vacation days. Poland, I think the minimum is 21 days. People seem way happier about work here in general. Also, cashiers get to sit down. I worked a few different retail jobs where if you even leaned against the belt you'd be scolded. Seeing cashiers sitting down was hugely shocking at first. I'm in the UK and have 25 days, plus 8 bank holidays, and I still feel like I have to really ration them out. Can't imagine having like 10 days. Think the EU in general mandates something like 20 plus days a year that you must take. More self-awareness, responsibility. I'm from Canada and everyone up here likes to act like we're God's gift to the world and constantly shit on the US as if we aren't basically exactly the same. And it's not just Trump. Ever since I was a kid I've been told Canada is the nicest, most best country. Be glad you're not an American. They're all rude idiots. Our identity is not being American. Germany here. Good internet and mobile coverage. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.